for me, I think it shapes positive form because you have a group. A lot of these guys have never just got along. A lot of us, we didn't have any problems. We just didn't, a lot of us didn't just frequent with the other. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of division with people who lived in the houses opposed to people who lived in the projects, opposed to people, who lived by the lake and by the park. And so now, you got all these people working together and coming together and eating together. And that's a blessing by itself for me, because nothing that everything was always competition. We had, baseball games and different, functions going on, but everything was about, this group of people against this group of people. So, to come down here and see all these people working together and getting together and getting along, I think it did a wonderful job of shaping the community. Yeah.
I think from how Bonton Farm shapes the city, this community, I think there's an impact, but just on a national basis, our country is so divided right now, and we've reduced ourselves to name callers. Like, we have a problem comes up and we label that problem or people with a name, and then those people are. And I think what's happening in Dallas that's exciting, and Bonton Farms is a piece of that, is we're bringing people from different backgrounds and races and socioeconomic statuses together, and we're starting to realize that we're humans. And for Christians, we're humans made in the image of Christ. And that we do have different struggles that are unique to different races and different socioeconomic stratas and so forth, but yet we all have this common bond to work through it together. And I hope that, and I think I see, through all the people that come down here and visit, I think I see this softening of people's heart in Dallas to reconcile and to not allow that racial division and economic division and political division. How many different layers of identity can we go down to find ways that we can tear each other apart? And I hope that we're a catalyst for healing. And I feel that here. I think that, there's some specific problems that we have become, we've earned the right, I think, to be a mouthpiece for. I don't know before Bonton Farms that the city of Dallas had as much focus on food injustice and food security and food deserts as the farm has been a catalyst to start, maybe bolster that conversation. I think that we're a mouthpiece in the city for advocacy for poverty alleviation. And one of the things that I'm most excited about, outside of the reconciliation of different people groups, is we've had several congressmen and congresswomen down lately, and we get to talk about criminal justice reform, changing the systems that create the environments that we're in today. And so from a little bitty farm in a place where nobody thought they would ever come, we're starting to have national politicians that have influence to change policy that can really transform, the effects of, the macro statistics that we see here. The vast number of people that fall out of the system because I caught a case on a hard situation and did 2 years in prison, and now my life is ruined. Well, it didn't have to be. So we have this voice for policy. So from a big picture, that's what I see and get excited about.
And I would just add, I think that what we're seeing is that we're getting invited into a lot of conversations at churches and rotaries and all sorts of business and groups around the city. And Bonton is one food desert of 40 in Dallas-Fort Worth. And so for us, I think getting a platform to be able to share the situations of poverty in our entire city, we have the highest rate of churches per capita, the most seminaries, the most evangelical wealth in any other city, and yet our poverty rate is right below Detroit, Michigan, and Memphis, Tennessee. And so we're getting to tell that story. And there's probably been 20 or 30 different people that have come to us and said, how can we start a garden? How can we change our community? And so to me, when I think of the city, I think of all of those influences that we might not even see on a daily basis of what we're doing, but we know the ripple effect. We have people coming from all over the world, literally Israel and Iran and Afghanistan, all like Canada and Mexico come and they've heard about what we're doing. So that's what I would say.
I think, again, going back to faith,
Mm-hmm.
as a Christian, I hope that we're also challenging the church.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you talked about having the greatest number of churches per capita for any city over 1 million, and the number of seminaries, and I think one of the highest percentage of cities of people that identify as Christians, and yet we have these horrible social problems. And if you know them by their fruit, those two things don't coexist very well together. And so we have, I think, relegated the role of caring for humanity, being salt and light to the government. What kind of government programs? And it's all the politicians at work to create the solutions for people in the margins. And I read my scripture and it says we're to be the solution for the people in the margins. And our churches aren't doing it, generally speaking, right? So you can't, it's hard to label everything, and I don't want to do that. But there's no way that you could put out on a balance sheet this number of churches, this many Christians, this many people following Christ, and this many problems. And so I hope that we're challenging churches on what it looks like to be a healthy ministry, serving people that have been marginalized for being born in a certain place. Nothing I did. Just was born in a place where I didn't have opportunities, and I'm stuck. And they need the church and Christians to come alongside to help them realize that they're children made in the image of God, and that they have hope, and they have been, that He has plans for them to prosper and to thrive as people. One of them just walked out. Edward just celebrated a year sobriety and just got admitted to Oxford House. He's been homeless for a long time, and so for him to have not only his sobriety, but some stable housing, place to get home and call home, and to get rest and to have home base means an awful lot. This young man over here just got married. First one in, I think, the history of both sides of his family to own a home.
Yep.
It's a big deal.
Yep.
We just had Sabrin's a 9-year-old girl that lives in the housing over here, and she just came to Christ this summer. Dop and Rico have been sober 6 months, just got out of Mena Nehemiah. They came out and we hired them back at the extension to work for us.
I mean,
Kim,
the thing is, everybody sitting here has fallen off the tracks and struggled, and I'm included, all of us.
Right.
And all of us are now are being restored. We're works in progress. And none of us are out killing people or snorting dope or hurting people, or, we're trying to be a part of the answer instead. So this is the testimony right here.
Yeah, and like I think that's our biggest slogan, like restoring lives. That's a real big, word, restoring lives. When you restoring a person's life, that means you taking them from doing bad to bringing them into doing positive stuff. So I think Bonton Farms has been a real big inspiration on this community, man. I don't care what nobody say, but this has been a real. I'll put it like this: the barrier is broken. I'm like, all kind of people can come down here now. It didn't used to be like that, so Bonton Farm is a real inspiring place now. So I think, man, we just one big happy family, man. Like I say again, the barrier is broken, so ain't no turning back. So it's all pushing forward from here. So, man, it's a real positive.
I think what you said is really powerful. It's not just that we're not doing the things we were doing.
Right.
It's the absence of that, but we're also now called to contribute and give back. And so there's this reversal, and that's the beautiful part to me. It's not just that I'm not high anymore.
right.
It's that, man, now we're helping other people not be high anymore. That's the giving back parts where the multiplication starts to come in.
And it's a process. It's not gonna be. It's just not a one and done or snap your finger type thing. It's a work in progress, And my answer is the way through. The way out is through. In order to get out of certain situations and things, you got to go through stuff. And so, when you go through, nobody says it's gonna be easy. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. And so, I don't think if it's not you're going through all the trials and tribulations, I don't think it's worth even fighting or going through. There's no consequences, there's no challenges, there's no hurdles, no mountains to climb. So I think, it makes you feel more better when you put effort and you work and you see the outcome, especially when you put a lot of effort into something, your heart and your passion. Because like farming, I'm not gonna try to change the subject. Farming, you gotta have a passion for people on the outside looking in and say, oh, the girls they so pretty, the flowers, blah blah blah. But you gotta have a passion, for doing that kind of stuff. It's just not just putting the plant down and it grows. We can't like humans are like flowers and with the proper sun and support and love, you can bloom and blossom to something real beautiful and nice. We all start out as seeds from our mama's wombs, and you never know something different. You never know, how your life will be or how you turn out. And so you with the right, proper love and support and, like Darren said, we all come from our different walks of life, different backgrounds and different issues and different values and different things. And so, you get what you put in, you put in 10%, you get 10%. And so you try to, give it your all every day, God, give you air and breathe. And, I do. When I wake up, I put my 10 toes on the ground. I wake up, I pray. It might be a brief moment. Thank God I cross kids, and I go shower. But, a lot of people didn't wake up this morning. It's the same say went out to dinner last night, went to a movie, played with the kiddos, read a bedtime story, and just life, some people, didn't wake up today. So every day God give me and my team, I see them, we here every day, it's a blessing. Every day is a blessing.
And I would add to that, one of our visions also is igniting hope. When people see people and know where we've come from and where we are now, it's giving other people hope that they, if they can do that, I can do that. That's hope, So that's another one of our vision words that we use, that we ignite hope for others. Yeah.
Well, I've been in here 42 years. If not me, then who? I just say, I've been in here 42 years, all my life, blah, 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 but what am I doing to try to to change the community, to help upcoming generations? It sounds good, if I'm prepared to say anything, but I mean, like I said earlier, get what you put in, you get out. And so I can say I've been in here all these years, but what have I done all these years to help tighten up the community? So, if not me, then who? It starts with me. And then so a lot of people come behind me, united as one. So it's a team effort. It's just not one individual. We're a team. And so I'm part of the family also. Every day I can see Bible study or, my family grows big and bigger because I consider this my family. I don't care about color. It doesn't matter. It's all about what's in your heart, and you surround yourself around positive and godly people. You start digesting and start absorbing some of that same, start getting that same taste. When you wake up every day out your life after 40 years, 40 years with a bad taste in your mouth every day, it becomes to get real bitter. And bitter comes from not the taste, but you become bitter. It start oozing out of you eventually. After so long, you get set in your ways, but it's back to trying to do something sustainable and like Darren does, but it doesn't work. And so the first thing we do, we go resort back to what we know how to do best: the corner, the drugging, the addiction. And so we trying to not resort back to those old people, places, and things. To get you every time, old people, old places, old things, it'll spank you. It's life. So I teach it to my kids. You make decisions. I try to let my kids bump their head a little bit to let them know, because me and mom not gonna always be here. And so whatever the issues you're going through today, best believe you're gonna go through them again in life. I'm not gonna be there to pick you up. And so I let them bump their head a little bit. And so I let them know these choices, the decisions you make today, you make the right, because sometimes when you make those bad or good decisions, you got to live with some of those choices and decisions you make in life. And so those are some of the core values that I teach my kids. I'm not perfect. I'm sick. I'm admitted. I'm not ashamed. It is what it is. But it's a difference between shame and guilt. See, when you're ashamed of something, you try to tend to shy away from all the support and all the love and all the people that help you. But when you feel guilty about something, you kind of have that urge to go say, he said you a little bit more. You're like, man, I did something, I said something. I feel like the right thing to do is to go man up and go apologize when you're guilty. But when you're ashamed, which they both have the same type, but they all the same concept, they all kind of have different meanings. So it's kind of different between the shame and guilt. So when I know me, I'm speaking for me. When I feel like I'm ashamed, I kind of distance myself, isolate myself, which is not healthy when you have all the love and support, and we consider ourselves as family. And so when you do that, from my history of those kind of situations, it results back to drugging, alcohol, depression, suicide. So it's kind of like too much of anything is bad for you. So it's like a balance. You kind of have to balance out yourself, And for the marriage, you're not saying that you don't love your wife, but you gotta also have you some me time so you can balance out. Because too much of anything is bad for you. So we're not saying that she don't love you. She might have to go out and have a girls' day out where she's not with you and she's window shopping and getting her nails and toes done with the girl. It's healthy. We all need that. It's a balance.
My why for Bonton Farms is when I read the scriptures, I see Jesus' heart for the poor, the broken, the downtrodden, and I see his great commission for discipleship. And those two things, what you see in a typical church is not focused on those things. And so for me, man, I want to invest my life. I think it's Paul when he says, what is my joy, what is my boasting, what is my crown on that day? Is it not you? Is it not the people he's poured his life into? And so, man, when I get to heaven, I don't want just a welcome home from Jesus. I want a well done. And I think that means pouring our lives out for other people and loving them the way that he loved us. I mean, he died for us. He gave us everything. How can we not give him everything in return? And so those are my passions in life, are just discipleship, evangelism, and helping the poor. So that's my why.
So why I believe in Bonton Farm so much is because it's probably the only single thing I've seen come to Bonton and have the impact that it did. It was the only thing I've seen come to Bonton and offer the challenges that it did. I mean, when you think about Bonton, it's not just a community filled with drug users. I mean, when we say addiction, that word could be spread so broad because a lot of us were addicted to selling drugs and hustling and just being in the street. But when a lot of guys, when I seen Darren and Trog and a lot of these guys get in guys' faces and say, look, if you want to change, if you don't want to be homeless, if you don't want to be helpless, if you don't want to be, a drug addict, if you don't want to be these things, meet me here every day, and I'll walk with you and we'll walk you through it and we'll do this together as a family. And I'm like, whoa, he got in that dude's face. I like that, because a lot of us need that challenge. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us, you have to see it because, if you go from here, say a quarter mile, maybe even a half a mile from here all the way up to Hatcher, you know what I'm saying? You'll pass maybe 15, 20 churches. And I've never seen a church get out in the community. A lot of these churches, I've never even seen these people. The only time you see them is on Sundays. Well, poverty just don't happen on Sundays. Drugs aren't just being sold on Sundays. Kids being molested, that's just not on Sundays. That's every day down here. And so it was something that I saw every day. Somebody down here trying to make a difference, and somebody, there's always somebody to point you to somebody who can help you.
That core value.
Yeah. And you can always appreciate that. Yeah. Always. And it rubs off. You know what I'm saying? Because I would sit back and listen to a lot of these guys give advice and talk to these guys, and then somebody would come to me with a problem, and I'm like, well, I'm going to say what he said and see how that works for me. And I say it, and it worked, and I'd be like, wow, did somebody see that? And it just, it does something to you, man, from the inside. You know what I'm saying? And it's been working for me a lot lately. So.
And just saying my wives, I'm behind one time for 100%, man, because when I got incarcerated, man, I went out, I had like a vision in my mind once I got out, man, and before I went in, I knew Darren, I knew Trog, I knew some of the older guys that were there before I went in, because like I say, everything started with me, it all started at Darren's house, and I got to know some of the fellas before I went in. So when I got incarcerated, man, and something just came in my mind, and I had a vision when I got out, man. It's like cause this wasn't built when I went in, right? So when I got out, you know what I mean, I would heard about the farm, like people like keeping me posted what was going on down there or whatever, and they told me the farm was built. So my first vision when I got out, man, was to come right down there, man, and just embrace myself with the guys. And first person I ran into when I got out, man, was Troy. And he was happy to see me. I was happy to see him. And you know, I told him, like, man, well, I'm fresh out, you know. And his first words to me, like, man, what can we help you with? And matter of fact, he say, just meet me on Monday. Well, to make a long story short, Monday came, and the first thing came out of his mouth was like, what can we help you with, Q? And the first thing came out of my mouth, well, you know, I say my parole fees are due. And you know, you got parole fees, you gotta meet the requirements on them because you don't want to go back. So that was my main theory. I say my parole fees, and I need a phone to network with. And he say, don't worry about it, man, we got you. And after that's when I love that we all just one big family, man, because any needs, man, they gonna try to make, these guys gonna make sure that they try to get met, you know what I mean? So that's when we call ourselves one big happy family, man. And I wouldn't trade Bonton Farm for the world, man. I've been with them too long, and they ain't never let me down, so I can't let them down. So that's what Bonton Farm means to me. That's why I'm behind it 100%, man, because you know it's a good program to be in, man. You got to start from the bottom and work your way up, which is what I done, you know. But it's a nice program to get involved in, man. It helps lives, change lives, and it helps people be better persons than they used to be. So that's the reason I'm behind 100% to the fullest.
And I think people don't understand that part of poverty and incarceration either. Is when $36 a month is a mountain you don't know how to climb. I mean, how are you going to take care of that? The chances of you going back to doing what you did in order to stay out are extremely high. And so that's why we do that. Is like, man, we want to get you ahead. You know, we want you to not have to worry about going back just because you can't pay a fee. You know. And so we talk about poverty being layered, right? There's so many layers to poverty that I think it goes back to that awareness. I mean, people just don't know, right? So it's important.
Well, my why behind Bonton Farms is I came here totally different than most of the guys. I came here very ill with my diabetes, taking insulin on a sliding scale 3 times a day. And Bonton Farms have really helped me in the area of my health. So it's similar. It's like an addiction, but it's a health thing. So it's kind of a similar thing, just a different way. I guess y'all can say I was addicted to wrong foods to eat. You know, it's an addiction, and I started eating better by working here at Bonton Farms, learning how to feed my body the correct things, being conscious of what I put in my body, and I'm no longer insulin dependent from working at Bonton Farms, learning about health and breathing good fresh air out in the sun every day, getting that good vitamin D. All that go together to fulfill your life, and people just don't know that. And so here in Bonton, I believe that I can help more people in our community be aware of how you can fight diabetes. You know, you can live with diabetes and live a healthy life, a good life, but some people that are diabetics don't really realize that. So my why is I can believe that things can change in your life, you know, even with health, you know, addiction and all that. It's similar. It's just, you know, it looks the same, just in different ways.
You know, I've been listening to everybody, and I've been thinking about this, and the more I think about it, the more I think my instinct, my gut is saying, I don't really have a why for Bonton Farms. You know, I founded this place, and Bonton Farms is the name of a place. And I think we have to be careful about putting our loyalties in the name of a place. You know, I'm loyal to this family, and my why is because I was in the gutter, I was dead, and Christ met me there. And he never gave up on me. So, you know, I think somehow every day that I get up and I care about somebody else as much or more than me is proof that there's a living God in me, because that's not who I am. Because I was the guy in the gutter. And so I think our loyalty is to one another. And so if you really ask that question, I think what we care about is God's given us this heart to care for one another. And that's what this is. And it just happens to carry the name of Bonton Farm. But man, I hate to ever put too much into the name of an organization, because it's just a place that we have to run money through to be able to pay people and to be able to do the work we do, but it's just the name of a place. We stand for something way bigger than that name. So that's, I think, really important.
Somebody get the wrestler some tissue.
I know.
I did it first. I did it
I
first.
was trying to hold on.
Because what he says is
We got him.
I don't, me as a person being sick with diabetes, who would think I wouldn't have went to a farm? God sent me here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. You know what I mean?
Man, I got to start with Chronicles, I think, where it says, if my people will humble themselves and pray, right? I think it takes humility to say we're all the same, right? We all put our shoes on one at a time, right? We're all broken to whatever degree it is. And I think if our city were to humble themselves and realize we're all human and pray. I mean, we get to see miracles. I used to read books about things like this and go, there's no way God would ever do that in my life. And weekly, if not daily, we get to see Christ show up and do miracles, man. And that only happens because people are praying for us. And they're coming down and they're investing and they're volunteering and they're giving of their time, they're giving of their money, they're giving of themselves. But you don't give of yourself in pride. You only give of yourself when you're humble, right? And so I say, man, it starts with humble. Humble ourselves as a city, begin to pray, begin to seek the Lord's face. You can't stare in the face of Jesus and not love other people. You can't receive his love and his grace and his forgiveness and not extend it to other people. It's impossible because he overwhelms us. And so I think, for me, I think the best thing the city can do is fall in love with Jesus. I mean, I know that sounds so simple, but just fall in love with him. I'm not talking about just go to church. I'm talking fall in love with Jesus. It's the best thing our city could ever do.
I think what the city could do to help is to play whatever role they have to play. You know, I know we're talking now, you're talking about the city. Not everybody believes the way we believe, and that's okay. You don't have to. We have people that come down from all walks of life, all faith systems, and the beautiful thing about this place is we welcome everybody there. I don't care who you're from, what you believe in, everybody has something to give back. And I think that's one of the things that when you come down here, you see, we had a family come down here on a Saturday to hike the trail. They didn't even know Bonton Farms was here. And I was there doing chores, and they said, what is this? And I told them a little bit about it, and they said, can we look around? I said, sure. So there were other people there doing the chores. You may have been here, Q, I'm not sure. But they were, I went back to do my thing, and they came back, had tears in their eyes, and were like, man, we had no idea. We want to help, but we're newly married. We don't have any money, and so we don't know how we can help, but we want to. I was like, well, what do you do for a living? He said, I manage company social media platforms. I'm like, well, I hate social media, but we need it. And now for 3 years, Blake has managed our social media platform. So I tell that specific story to say that everybody has something to offer, and we can't do this without people stepping up and doing their part. I think the easiest thing for people to do is to help tell the story. Because most people in our city are apathetic to the challenges we have because they're unaware of them. And so awareness in our city will change things. And so just tell the story. Help tell the story. Help get involved enough to read the newspaper and know that there's people in our city that are struggling. Not everything looks like it does in Uptown. Right? And so I think that's important. We have to have support financially. If people don't believe in us, then we can't do this work here. And so we have simple ways where people can make small monthly donations just to help us get by. And I think the third thing is they work for companies, they go to churches, they go to worship in synagogues, they're part of leadership groups, they're part of networking groups, they're at the Rotary Club, and all those organizations have some kind of part of what they stand for that's about giving back. And so introduce us to them and bring your club or group or church or synagogue or company down here and help us love on people and create a better tomorrow for a place that's suffered for a really long time.
Okay, I would say Bonton Farm is life-changing.
Bonton Farm is inspiring.
Bonton Farms is a place of restoration.
I think Bonton Farms is love.
Bonton Farms is the future.
Bonton Farm is life changing.